Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about adding detail to the crew chief seats of the Kitty Hawk MH-60 Lima with Aves Apoxie Sculpt. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is prep our work area. And for that I have, my normal workbench. I have a cutting board on top of my normal cutting mat. It's just a thin piece of plastic that I use to keep everything kind of neat on my bench. I have my tools handy. I have disposable gloves on my hands just to keep the sculpt off my hands. And then I have the piece that we're going to work with. Now something that really helps here, I use some baby powder just to keep the epoxy sculpt from sticking to the mat, from sticking to my hands. So I'll put a little bit down, just rub it in a little bit, rub it on my fingers. I'll take the my roller, which is just a Play-Doh roller that I stole from my kids, rub some on there just to make sure that the epoxy is not going to stick. Once we have that ready, you can see I have it on my hands, it's nice and smooth. We'll take our epoxy sculpt. We have part A and part B. And we only need a little bit because we're just making the seat cover. Now obviously if we were making more than one, we would need more, but you just take a little bit. And Aves says to use this in a 50-50 mix. I don't measure it or anything, I just give a rough estimate. So we'll get it close here. You'll notice too, mine's kind of changed color a little bit. I haven't noticed any performance issues with it, but it's still soft. It works fine. It's just a different color. But then we take our two pieces and we knead them together until we get a nice uniform color. And you can see, if you look close, you can see the difference in color. So and you can see everything's starting to get pretty well even. You'll notice too that sometimes there's some hard spots that don't like to mix. You'll notice that especially once you roll it out. But it's usually not too much of an issue. Alright, so it looks like we're pretty well uniform here. So we'll take it, we'll start to flatten it out. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's super thin. We can rub off some of this baby powder just to help out a little bit here. That's better. So we have our seat and we have the smooth putty down here, nice and flat. What we'll do then is we only need it to cover, when we look at the seat, we're only going to cover this area here for right now. So we don't need all of what we have there. So again, I'll take my razor, give it a flat spot, and then since we're just going to go up the seat, we'll trim it a little bit so it's a little easier to work with. Alright, so here's our seat. We'll throw this piece on. And then we'll just give it a little squeeze to kind of bond it to the plastic a little bit. And you can see when I did that, the line that was in the seat starts to show up there. You can see that. So that makes it really easy to trim up. We can just come right at that line, trim straight across, and we got most of it. Now obviously we have to trim off the sides of the seat. And again, that's easy. We'll just take our knife and go right down the side. If it balls up like it just did, fix it and give it a cut. I have a little bit too much baby powder on here, which is why it's not sticking quite as well as I'd like, but it's still on there. So there is the epoxy sculpt on the seat. Now at this point, we'll take some of our sculpting tools. In this case, I just have a flat one. And if you remember in the reference photo I used, there's some stitch lines that go the whole way around. So we'll add those real quick. And basically, we're just going to take it and touch the tip right to it. And you can see we're getting a line there. Now you kind of want to be careful so that you're not making it too deep or too wide, and you're staying even the whole way around, because the stitch line is pretty even. The overhang is pretty even. Alright, so there's our stitch line. Nothing fancy, but that's what's on the real thing. And the other thing we can do is just keep this bottom nice and neat. I'll push the epoxy sculpt into the corner some, and that'll help hold it onto the seat too. So we have that. Now at this point, there's also two straps that, again, if you remember the reference photo, that come up from this layer up over top of the seat that actually hold this on. We can add that now, or we can wait till we're done. It doesn't matter. I'm actually just going to add it now because I have the sculpt already sitting here and it's ready to go. So with that, we'll just take one of the pieces that I've already rolled out and cut a very thin strip. And we'll take it and drop it. Okay, so we have it roughly in place. We'll move it and then we'll press it in so it stays put a little bit. If it's not perfect, that's fine. We can adjust it. Again, we'll take one of our sculpting tools and we'll just push it where we want it. And then give it a little press. Now once this starts to set up, like we did on the bottom, we can move the material around a little bit. So there's one of the straps. All right, you can see where, and on my fumbling, I kind of moved it around a little bit there, but it's easy enough just to push right back in place. All right, so both straps are on. Oh, they were on. Now both straps are on. We'll tuck this extra in behind. Now on mine, I cut this off because you're not going to see it anyway. If you're going to see the back of the seats, you can do this a little more neatly and actually wrap it around this bar like it's supposed to be. But for my case right here, it's not necessary. And we can straighten out the strap a little bit. Come back and fix our stitch line some, because all my gorilla fingers have smashed it. All right, so there's that. So to apply the actual wrinkles and texture to this, we're going to use a couple different brushes. You know, I showed you the square chisel tip. We have one that's round but still square in the corners. I have a round pointed tool. They're all kind of useful. This chisel tip is handy. Basically all we're going to do is just try to make natural wrinkles. You can use those reference photos like I have, but we'll just start making it look a little natural. And all you gotta do is press in. It actually forms relatively easy. I made this putty a little bit thinner than normal, but it's still, you can see we're already getting some wrinkles. This little pointed brush makes some really nice fine wrinkles in corners. And again, I'm not pushing hard at all. You can maybe see the little bit of deformity in the sculpting tool as I press, but it's really no real pressure at all. And something to remember too, there's nothing, this isn't an exact science. I can't tell you what your seats look like. I mean, you can obviously do this with more than the seats for the MH-60. This is just what I'm working on right now, and the plain seats looked kind of ridiculous. So, find a good reference and then work towards it. There it is. It doesn't look a whole lot like much now, but once we get some primer on it and some paint, add some shading to these wrinkles, it'll really look the part.